It didn't work for a whole year. Immediately after, couldn't catch a cold. It's one of the most overcrowded professions in the world. There's a million people there ready to go. I'll do it quicker and cheaper. I broke the cardinal rule. Never do it coaster, ever. It's possible for boys from Wales to go to Hollywood and have a career. If I'm part of that legacy, then iechyd da.
New York. I'm here to meet a Cardiff actor who's certainly making it here. On screen and making it his home as well. Hello. Boy.
Hello, Jim.
How are you, right, all right?
Very good. How are you?
God, I thought it was Tom Hanks from Castaway then for a minute.
Which, before or after he's lost the weight?
Right, come on. Where are you taking me?
Oh, I don't know where to begin. I'm going to show you the sights and sounds.
So,
here we are. 200
yards away from this magnificent skyline.
It's like Penarth Pier.
A little bit. That's Brooklyn Bridge, isn't it?
Brooklyn Bridge with the Empire State behind it.
Yeah.
And then you got, Freedom Tower, One World Trade, 1,776 feet tall, 1776, the year of independence.
Keep on going.
Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, named after a Welshman.
Right, okay.
Apparently it was a sandbank with a pub on it owned by a Welshman called Ellis.
No, you take all this in, right, and you think, hang on now, living in Brooklyn Heights, with a Hollywood superstar, and she is, do you think now, right, you've made it now? Is this, when you started off acting, can you ever imagine saying, right, here I am, showing my mates around, this is where we are,
this is the view,
and this is it.
Yeah, no, I still totally have the sort of, I have two things. I have the pinch myself and the turn over the shoulders for the bloke who's going, oi, we didn't mean you. We went Matthew Rhys the hooker, get out.
And is it, well, that's what they said, I'm going to interview Matthew Rhys, and they said, well, what's Matthew Rhys the hooker doing in New York? So it's exactly it. But I'm looking at it going, right, it's, when I started off my career, I go, right, I want to play for Wales, right? That is have you got something that you've done it, or there is something else
there is still something else that lies over there, which is to be on Broadway, and that's like the elusive Lion's Cap.
Well, I didn't have that, so there we are. I know that's what
I'll just rub some lemon juice into that one for you. I thought I'd relate it to you.
One thing missing there, Twin Towers, having moved here, how do they feel about it?
I think one thing you see often, especially fire department tattoos, murals, is, lest we forget, and they absolutely would. It became just an integral part of the fabric of the city.
Yeah.
And I don't think it clouds them, but they absolutely it changed a number of things, and they absolutely haven't forgotten it. And it
pulled them all together. Incredibly.
Yeah, incredibly so. But yeah, the memorials and the commemorations every year are still enormous, as they should be.
Being an actor, I know it's like everything's going so well for you, but you out of work and waiting, and you talk to actors who said, oh, I got to do this job and that job and a painting job or whatever. Yeah. You nearly give it up, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a year at the West End playing The Graduate with Kathleen Turner.
Yes.
And I just thought, oh, I'm 25, I'm set now, this is going to be amazing.
This is it, I've made it, big break.
Yeah, and then it didn't work for a whole year. Immediately after, couldn't catch a cold.
How do you get your mind around that then? How do
I didn't.
Keep on going, what do you do?
Well, I slightly didn't. I slightly lost it a bit, kind of considered joining the army and things like that. Because you go, well, by then, after a year, you're sort of skint and you're going, I can't. And it's not like you're not auditioning. I was auditioning tons, I couldn't land a thing. So yeah, I started thinking about other professions.
No, thank you very much.
Oh, good call.
So, what do you like about, the New York lifestyle then?
I'm not sure if it's what I like, but what or that I spend most of my time thinking I'm in a film, because I still have that thing when I walk around and like you, someone brings it, they go, you know, you want some coffee? You go, oh, I feel like I'm in a Robert De Niro film. So I think it's that continuous feeling that I'm just in one big giant film. I've even got a soundtrack going right now, but you're like Al Pacino.
Oh, I might be happy with that. What about the American accent? And do you, when you speak at home, then you in the American accent or this Welsh one?
this Welsh one I'm stuck with.
Well, give us the old, give us a bit of American, the old Brooklyn accent.
The archetype when people say coffee, you want some coffee, is like it's a Long Island, you know, Long Island just outside New York. You know, they say Long Island, like you want some coffee. So Brooklyn might go, so a Brooklyn accent might say you want some coffee instead of coffee. And all of a sudden you're like, what? So I try to keep as generic and general as possible.
What's it like working in America and working with Americans? They seem, you know, they drive you hard and just
100%. It's one of the most overcrowded professions in the world.
Yeah.
And every man and his donkey thinks they can act, because ultimately that's all you're doing is, well, you're standing, you know, standing on a bit of tape talking to people. Everyone goes, well, how hard is that? So yeah, there's a million people there ready to go, I'll do it quicker and cheaper.
Well, you've been mega successful now in the States.
Mega.
I'll say that again. Mega, you know, mega successful.
£10 every time you say mega.
Brothers and Sisters, massive hit where you played a gay lawyer. And then, do you think that was that put you on that kind of plateau and then you could just pick and choose, or?
I'm not sure if I'm in a place where I can pick and choose, but it definitely gave me an opportunity. It was, you know, it was a big show, it was a network show, so you can sit back and learn, and that's what I did was watch and learn. I did a lot of that on Brothers and Sisters, and then it gave me the opportunity to audition then for things like the Americans.
Do you still get recognised a lot, or do you love the anonymity of New York?
I think in New York, even if they do recognise you, they don't really care. Yeah.
See everyone.
So I'd rarely get recognised. Even when I go to the kitchen in the morning, it's touch and go when she remembers me.
What about, so moving on to the Americans, people maybe in the UK don't appreciate how big it is over here.
Tell them.
Well, I will tell them now. Even to the degree where you were summoned to the White House because the Obamas are massive fans. So where would you sit next door to in the White House?
Michelle Obama.
There we are. And what kind of conversation?
Lady. I've been in a number of nerve-wracking situations, right? But I have to say, I was so nervous in that situation.
Cracking yourself.
I didn't have a single thought in my head. And I do remember going, say something, because I was just like this. There was one terrible moment where she was all in white, this beautiful white gown, and they'd got these small heirloom tomatoes from the garden they'd poached and peeled, like a bull in a china shop. I got like this, and I forked this tomato, oh my God. It went off like a grenade, right? It went, and I just watched it go, and she's there just watching, just sail past it, and all of it missed her, and she was none the wiser talking to the sort of Prime Minister of Singapore, and I'm there going,
So what was he? What was he like? Was he?
Oh, they're the most gracious, charming, down to earth. They're everything you think they are, and sort of more. And they're fans of the show, so they wanted to talk about the show, and then you want to talk about how to run America. So it's like, he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And you're like, I don't want to talk about the show.
So what do you ring home and tell mum and dad? Oh, have a guess what I've been today.
You know that man that runs America? Hang on.
What do they
Ronald Reagan, is it?
What do they say? I
think they're sort of just a bit shocked now.
The other thing is, the Americans, you're married to Kerry.
Yeah. I mean, not in real life.
No, you're married on the show.
Yeah.
But now she is your partner.
Yeah.
Mother of your son.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
I broke the cardinal rule.
Yes. Dating.
Yes,
co-star.
never dirty co-star, ever. And I thought I'd cracked it. I thought, done it, got through it. And then, I was like, oh no, I've become the cliche. Terrible, but so far it's worked.
Another thing I'm not sure of as an actor, when you see someone you kind of love, right?
Yeah.
Having to do kind of love scenes.
It's the worst. It's the worst part of the job. And as it is, if you're two actors together, it's the worst thing for them as well. But it is, there's nothing that makes it any better. The amount of time you're with someone, the amount, is the worst feeling in the world. Especially if he's got better six-pack, bigger arms,
Yeah.
all of that.
I can imagine.
Cool.
Have you looked at that?
All right.
So, Matt, where are we now in this great city?
Well, we're leaving the great city of Brooklyn. We'll probably either get on the Brooklyn or the Manhattan Bridge
Yes.
and make our way into Manhattan to probably my favourite bar in New York, for many reasons, called the White Horse Tavern.
Dylan Thomas.
Dylan Thomas is also his favourite pub. We're just getting onto Brooklyn Bridge now, which when it was opened, I think it was the longest suspension bridge in the world.
Yeah. Gosh, it's iconic. It's an amazing skyline, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. The one downside of New York for me is that sometimes you just feel like you can't quite breathe.
Yeah.
It's only when you get to the countryside you go, oh, you realise.
So where do you get out?
We usually go upstate, to about 2 hours north. There's a mountain range called the 2.5, Woodstock, Catskills, all around there, just countryside. It's like being at home.
It's absolutely boiling. How do you cope with the heat?
I don't. My Welsh blood congeals to a slow pulse, and I'm good for nothing. I am no good in the summer in this city. I cannot wait till autumn comes.
The White Horse Tavern.
Where it all happened.
Here we are.
Hello. Good. How are you? You should try a Brooklyn Lager.
I'll try
Can I get an IPA and a Brooklyn Lager, please?
Sure.
Thank you. There you go. Well, Guinness. Oh, thank you very much.
Taste. Here's mine.
Iechyd. What do you think?
Yeah, it's all right. It's
All
wet.
right.
It's wet.
Cold.
So this is Dylan Thomas's local.
Yeah.
This is where he spent a lot of his time.
He did, and as many know, it was where where tragically all came to an end, and he had his last few drinks here, and then collapsed outside, and then they took him to St. Vincent's.
So is there, they know the history of Dylan Thomas. Is there a fondness for the Welsh in New York?
Yeah, I think primarily because of him. At his height, he was this sort of rock and roll poet. Making poetry sexy and doing these readings. It was a new phenomenon of his time, and he was a famous Welshman in New York, coveted and sought out. Bob Dylan took his name.
Yeah, the Edge of Love, you played Dylan in that. But as you said, it was mainly about the women in it.
Yes.
Do you think they should do a film where, right, that's it, he's the main character?
Yeah, of course. And
you play it?
Well, of course. Yes, there we are, end of conversation. I think having got to know what his life was, there's certainly enough there to make an incredible feature film about him, if not a short series. And naturally, I should play him.
But this is just an amazing place, isn't it? If you just look at the walls and...
Yeah. And to me, this is, yes, it was, Dylan's pub, but also, to me, it's one of the only great pubs in New York. Dylan Thomas Awards, Richard Burton.
Yes.
Accepted by daughter Kate, who I did Under Milkwood with a few years ago. But yeah,
Incredible,
this is the...
Incredible.
Yeah, the Dylan Thomas room.
Do you feel you're maintaining now the kind of great Welsh actors, your Burtons, your Hopkins, and leaving a Welsh legacy in American film industry?
I think what Burton and Hopkins did for me was you made it a very real and tangible dream. Something.
You could make it.
Yes, that it's possible for boys from Wales to go to Hollywood and have a career. Burton did that very, very early on. If in some small way, if we talk about legacy, that some other kid sees the Americans and goes, oh, it is possible. You know, there is life after an Eisteddfod, then, you know.
Well, that's why it's so important to have heroes. You Gareth Bales,
Yes.
and you Gareth, you know, you Gareth Edwards,
Yes,
and all these
yeah.
people, you know?
Yeah, in every walk of life. So legacy in that respect, then if I'm part of that legacy, then iechyd da.
How much do you miss Wales?
Enormously, daily. And it's funny, I think as a young man, but in your 20s, 30s, you kind of, you know, you're running around the world there for the taking. And it's, as I've sort of, in these last few years, and I get a little bit older, I start missing it more and more. And it's a simple things day to day. I miss Welsh banter. So much.
Sledging.
There's nothing like it.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
Does Kerry enjoy
loves
Wales?
Loves going to Wales. But you know, but our life, our life is definitely here. So I come here for my pockets of Wales, pints and pockets.
Incredible. And if you watch the rugby matches, local pubs?
Depends on the game. I've realised I can't watch England-Wales in the pub anymore. Or in fact, I've been encouraged not to. Or when I was told to get out.
Get out, Rhys.
Yes, I was, for expletives, I
don't care if you're a Russian agent or not, get out.
yeah.
With the Americans, is it the toughest role you've had to play so far?
Yeah, I would say yes, because Ronald Reagan, height of the Cold War, what the KGB were trying to do is sort of unbelievable. So making that believable in a drama is a big ask of the audience. So grounding it in a reality I find difficult, but then the layers to the character that you're this domestic dad by day and the sort of KGB agent by night. So making those two marry in a very real way, I think that you don't go, hang on, it's not like a Caped Crusader, you put your pants on the outside by night and off you go. It's layers, basically.
But in the character as well,
yeah.
You have the high-speed car chases. So how does that work? Do you have to close streets down in New York?
Yeah, that's the sort of boys' own adventure stuff that I love. You know, again, harking back to American television I watched. You get an opportunity with closed street police, stunt drivers. You're in a 1980s car that doesn't have power steering, I hasten to add. You know, flooring it along these American streets. Those are the sort of the great moments.
And also, your fitness regime, you know, you have a personal trainer and you have self-defense classes and kung fu and arm gras.
You find yourself going, this is my job, sort of doing high-speed chases and doing kung fu.
So to what degree could you defend yourself if you were kind of attacked in the street?
If you gave me 20 minutes, I could bore anyone to death with my career.
Don't need 20.
No, a good five solid minutes.
What about fending someone off or...
Well, here's the thing. You learn all this stuff in showbiz, and you sort of go, I think I'd be all right. And then I would imagine if you cut to the reality, I would be screaming for my stunt double or shouting cut.
Best self-defense is this one, look. See, you go like
that. He's an expert. Sword stuff is when you get nervous.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Or someone comes in, you know, between matinee and the evening performance at the theatre, and they go, come on, let's go to the sword fight again. You go, huh?
Yeah. You've been to Dylan's pub?
Yeah. Just for lunch. I only had a sandwich. Let's try to fight again. But it happens.
How much time do you have? You know, there's the script. You're doing it.
It completely depends. Sometimes you can get a script the week before and it doesn't change. Other times, you walk on set and they go, you know that scene. We've tweaked it a bit. Sorry to do this to you, and you're going to shoot in 5 minutes. Sorry to do this. These are the new lines, if that's okay. And you go, and that's when the panic sets in.
On set.
As you're walking onto the set, you've learnt the scene, and they go, we've tweaked it a bit. Do you mind? Sorry. And you're like, what? We're shooting now. And they went, I know. It's a tiny. And you go, it's not a tweak. You've changed the scene. And they're like, yes, because the last one didn't make sense. Like, well, unless I can staple it to someone's forehead, you need to give me 5 minutes. This is a scene, I think it was season 3, where Nikobo was actually...
I could do that part.
Well, he's an African socialist from South Africa.
Okay.
So it's not a white Afrikaans accent. It's not Francois Pienaar.
How's it going?
I won't attempt it. I won't attempt it. I'll leave it to you.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, go on. You've got time.
Okay. Your wife is at home now.
Dave. Here's a taste of the Americans for you. Nicobo. That's your new nickname.
Nicobo Davies. It's a lot nicer than some of them I've had, let me tell you. What's the future then for Matthew, career-wise and living, family?
Living in life. So, you know, our lives are here in New York for the foreseeable future. One thing you realise in this mad game is that you have no control over your career, really. You know, and that it can be a drop of the hat next day. I've had jobs where they go, can you be in France tomorrow? And you go, okay.
Things are going really well, Ma. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you,
Living
Mr.
the
Davies.
life.
I know.
Doing the great stuff on telly. Happy families, lovely boy.
You sound like Windsor Davies.
I know, lovely boy, lovely boy. Can't get any better.
No, it can't. It can't. So, knock on wood, long may it continue.
Diolch i weld i fi.
Diolch.
Pleasure.